Mike, that's not mold.
Totally agree with you. What do I know?
Hi, I'm Eva from Homeowners Resource Group, and I'm here with Mike Totino from Hyperfocused Inspections. He's been an inspector for how many years now?
Going on 7 years in November.
How did you get started?
Funny enough, a buddy of mine was a part-time home inspector, and he was telling me about it, and it kind of aligned with what I was already good at. I know real estate, I know construction, I have a construction background, and I feel like I'm good with people. And at the time, I was a contractor dealing with a ton of headaches, just one thing after another. And I learned that I'm just not good at managing people, and I don't have the patience for that. And I thought about home inspections, and here we are now, 7 years later.
Still dealing with people.
Still dealing with people, but not managing and babysitting 24/7,
Right.
which I think for me was just a huge shift that I had to make, otherwise I'd drive myself crazy.
Right. So what kind of construction were you into that helped lead you into the types of inspections you do now and what to look for?
So when I was a contractor, we did primarily interior work, kitchens, bathrooms. I personally liked finishing basements. I had a little niche for that. But even before I was into contracting, I was a union carpenter for 6 years. So I've worked at ground zero, I've done concrete work, drywall, everything. So
you've literally seen things get built from the ground up.
Ground up, yeah.
And all the way to the finish line. That's pretty cool.
100%, yeah.
So you know what to look for and things like that. So now, what is your primary base of business? Where does everything come from?
Luckily, thanks to you guys, the realtors, investors, mortgage brokers, most of my work now it's all word of mouth from real estate professionals.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started out, I had to network like 24/7. You know, you got to get your name out there and grind, and you know.
Yep. And about how long does an inspection take on site and then to get the report back?
For me, on average, the inspection part is 2 hours, and then writing up the report maybe another 30 minutes to an hour, and then they'll get the written report within 24 hours.
So now, do you have a checklist of what you go over on the report?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So I built out my whole template. So the way I do it, it's efficient. So I have my checklist of, exterior, plumbing, roofing, attic, crawl space, basement, stuff like that.
And then do you label it like most urgent needs to be done?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my comments are actually color coordinated, whether it's yellow, whether it's red, whether it's blue. Each color indicates the importance. Red is obviously priority. Yellow is a deficiency. I'm recommending you should repair this. And something that's blue is more like you should just maintain this so things don't happen in the future. Because my reports aren't just defects. It's more of, these are long-term, list items that you should just be mindful of. So to be proactive and not reactive.
Right. Do you find that you've ever not had a deal closed because of one of your reports, because of something you found?
Absolutely. And I hate to say this, but it's not the inspector's fault. We are literally documenting, our findings, but it's also very important on how to communicate these things with a first-time home buyer. They're nervous. They're putting a bunch of money down. They don't know about construction, building, material. So I'm making a priority to make sure that they know this can all be fixed. If a deal doesn't pan out, it's because of the terms. It's because the seller doesn't want to fix it. They don't want to give a credit. And the buyer is just not comfortable moving forward with those terms. It's not the inspector.
Right.
So,
or it could be because of the mortgage company says,
yeah.
Like if it's a VA loan, I know they have very specific guidelines, or FHA loans that the handrails have to be a certain height.
Too,
Yeah,
absolutely.
So if any of those things, what would be like the biggest indicators of like red flag? If this is not fixed, do not buy this house.
So I've actually never told someone don't buy this house because it goes back to the whole everything can be fixed, and it just boils down to their comfort level. I've done houses for builders where the house is falling apart, but they know that already.
Right.
They're still going to move forward. But then I've done inspections for clients. They're just hyper nervous and they back out of the smallest inconvenience. But I would say top of the list items would definitely be mold, because that's related to health and safety. And then the second one up, I would say termites, depending on the location. If the support beam's rotted and it's just falling apart because of termite damage, that's something that would be priority.
Right. Okay, so we're here at 19 Abbott's Creek Pack Jog, and we're going to do a walkthrough home inspection live in the flesh. This is a 3,500 square foot home. It's been vacant for, I'd say, 7 or 8 years. And we're just going to go through it and see all the things that maybe a buyer won't see in their naked eye, maybe just a home inspector picking things out, aside from, shattered glass or broken walls or apparent mold you can see on a wall, what things that like a home inspector would see that maybe the regular person might not be able to pick up on. So, all right, do your thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're here in a bathroom that has no walls. The house has no power, obviously, and the water's been turned off. Now, I was going to ask you, which we just discussed, that can a home inspector tell a homeowner what to do in order to rectify things, or do they just kind of pick it out? Like, there's no electric, how do I get it turned on? There's no plumbing, how do I get this back up? What can and can't a home inspector tell a person?
Great question. And I'm glad you asked that question, because there's a difference on what's included in a home inspection and what's not. So as a home inspector, we pick out the defects and we tell them who they should contact. So obviously if there's a leak in the pipes, I'm recommending have a licensed plumber evaluate these things. Same thing with electrical defects. We also don't tell our client how it should be fixed, because I can't speak on behalf of an electrician or a roofer. Every contractor has their own different methods of doing the work. And last but not least, we certainly do not give out pricing. I can't give bids based on work that I don't do.
Right.
So, and I get this question all the time. Okay, based on your findings, Mike, how much is it going to cost? And I tell them, your best bet's to contact the person that's doing the work, and they can give you an accurate price. And to take it a step further, just because you're getting quotes, that does not mean the seller's obligated to now drop their price to accommodate your credit request.
Right.
So I let my clients know that too. And I feel like even during a buyer's consultation, those expectations should be set within the first meeting. Say, listen, home inspector is going to find things, but the seller's not obligated to accommodate your request whatsoever. But even if that's the case, the information they have from my report, it's for their knowledge, and they know what they're up against moving forward.
Right. And how urgent it is. Does this
Correct.
need to be done now,
Yes.
or can it wait?
Absolutely.
And then also, are you able to give out referrals for contractors, or?
I'm very selective, only because, if I'm doing a house where I know the kitchen is going to be gutted and updated and bathrooms, I'd rather them get their own person, because I don't want something to go wrong. And then my clients look at me like, well, you're the one who told me to get this person. But when it comes to mold and restoration, I definitely recommend people that I've already worked with. I know how they work, and I'm comfortable giving that referral, because mold, as I previously mentioned, that's always top of the list.
Yeah, definitely. So in this bathroom, as we can see, there's no walls.
I wonder what happened here, by the way.
So as far as I know, because the house was vacant for a few years, and obviously the air conditioning system's up there too.
The air handler, yeah.
Yep.
Right above us.
There was probably a leak, and then either maybe a pipe burst. If you see anything else you could pick out in here that maybe would have indicated, prior flood damage, molds. But that's usually, the bank will remove any sort of, health hazard type things and mold and things like that. So
first thing I'm thinking, because the air handler is right above our heads, you should have what's called a drip pan underneath the air handler. So when condensation forms, there's a pan right underneath that catches it. But there's many cases where either the drip pan's completely corroded, it's rusted.
That happened in my house.
Or it's not even installed. So my assumption is that it could have happened right above us, and the water just kept coming through.
Right.
And because it's been vacant, this whole bathroom was probably mold contaminated. And the goal with mold, and I'm going to keep saying this, is it's not to paint over it. It's not to put bleach on it. It's always, the goal is to remove it.
Right.
Because if you just cover it, you're not doing anything, and that'll only make it worse.
Yep.
So if mold's on walls, just get it out of there completely.
Right. So the only way really so say in like a bathroom, you have, an air vent where air conditioning's coming out. A lot of mold condensates and comes around here because when the cold air hits the warm air,
condensation forms.
Yep. And then it creates like the mold spores, and you may not even see it half the time, correct?
Yeah.
And it may just be in the air vent. So now what would you suggest if like somebody just wants to use like mold paint, or would you actually recommend taking the sheetrock out?
So it depends how severe it is. If it's on the surface, if it's less than 10 square feet, you can HEPA vacuum it off the actual surface. But if it's like dark black, like, the mold where you walk in the house, it's really
like
bad.
in this house?
Like in this house right downstairs. You just want to remove it at all costs. But another way to even avoid that from happening, the condensation, is ventilation, right?
Okay.
When I inspect vacant houses and no one's been there for an extended period of time, that air gets stagnant, and that's how mold forms as well. The humidity levels are rising. There's nothing controlling the humidity in basements and crawl spaces. So mold is almost like it's a perfect storm. It's the moisture, humidity, and it needs something to eat. And that's how it thrives, whether it's drywall, whether it's wood, that's how it grows.
Right. Paint.
Carpeting. If I take an air quality sample in a house and it comes back positive and there's carpeting throughout, what do you think is the remedy to get rid of it?
Yeah, definitely.
Rip up the carpet. I know some people don't want to do that. It's an inconvenience. They got to move their stuff. But that mold is embedded in that carpet.
Right.
And to vacuum it all, it's stuck in there.
It'll never go away.
It's never going to go away. So I always want to protect my clients because I always think of a worst case scenario. What if someone moves in the house, they didn't take the proper steps, and they're getting sick? I just did a mold inspection literally less than 24 hours ago. They're getting sick in the house. Their dishwasher was leaking. The whole floor got wet. Mold was growing behind the appliances and cabinets, and now the guy's sick now. So,
wow, and they had no idea.
no idea. So they got to gut the whole kitchen now.
The whole kitchen.
The whole entire kitchen.
Wow.
Yep.
So having sort of air filters, purifiers
Absolutely.
may help,
Yes.
but so now let's talk about mold remediation. Can you go through the steps?
Absolutely. It depends on what type of mold there is. So the lab results, it breaks down everything: the spore count, the type of mold, how it grows. And there's different methods of taking samples, whether it's a swab sample on a surface like a wall or a floor. There's the air samples. It's little cartridges that I set up on a tripod. It takes about 10 minutes per sample, and it tells me if it's airborne or not. So in that case, if it's positive, then I recommend to have HEPA filters, negative air pressure. So any mold spores that are present, it goes through the filter and outside the house.
Right.
And then HEPA vacuum the surfaces, the walls, the floors. And then on top of that, let's use this bathroom for an example. You also want to encapsulate the studs, the floor, so it doesn't grow back again.
Right.
Because you could remove the mold, but if you don't encapsulate it, what's stopping it from growing back again? So it's very, very important.
And how would you encapsulate it?
They have products you can spray on, you could paint on. Have you ever been in a basement? You see all the studs are white.
Yep.
The joists
I was
are
just
white.
about to say, when
It's
you walk into a
encapsulated.
house, you see it's in whitewashed.
Yes.
It's been mold
Encapsulated.
remediated. Yeah.
Exactly. And take it a step further on the buying side for first-time home buyers, let's say. If mold comes up in an inspection and you get a mold assessment done on top of that, comes back positive, I always recommend don't let the seller take care of it. You don't know who they're hiring. You don't know who's qualified on their end to do the work. And let's face it, do you really think a seller is going to get the right person to do the right job?
No.
They're not. They're going to cheap out. You're going to move in and find out it's too late.
Yep.
And I know this for a fact because I have new home buyers hiring me for mold assessments, and they were told during the inspection it's all going to be taken care of.
Right.
And they moved in and it wasn't.
Right. Of course.
And now I'm doing the mold assessment, proving there's mold in the house.
Yep. And that's something like when we're going through permits on certain either new builds or large renovation projects that the town is requiring now mold inspections.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah, I'm doing one now in Islip, so they needed
Yeah,
that.
exactly. And the beauty about the lab results is it eliminates any confusion. Is there mold present? Is there not? So during a home inspection, I do get pushback from listing agents. They say, well, that's not mold. I say, listen, I'm not here to determine if it's mold or not. The lab results do.
Yep.
So that
Don't kill the messenger.
removes me from any conflict of any, so I'm not there to argue with anyone.
Exactly. All right. Anything else you can pick out about this bathroom that you think may have happened in here or should be fixed other than the apparent?
So during my inspections, I always recommend, as I mentioned, my reports aren't just defects. So I'm recommending to check the toilet again during the final walkthrough, the shower fixtures. I'm making sure that there's hot water. When I'm running the sink, I'm also checking underneath to make sure there's no leaks, there's no mold. Mold is another common area. Obviously, under sinks, you have a little pipe that's dripping. And because it's under the sink, the doors are closed. What do you think's going to happen?
Dark.
It's dark,
damp
it's
spaces.
damp. There's no air circulation. If there's none present, I recommend an exhaust fan in every full bathroom.
Right.
Because I don't expect people to open up the window every time that they shower.
Yeah,
Just
especially if it's 20 degrees out.
You're going to forget that. But I make sure that the fixtures aren't loose, there's no leaks, and then But everything I do is at the time of the inspection. So I kind of set that expectation as well. Like anything can change
Right.
from the time I'm here to the final walkthrough. So
Right.
I kind of have like a checklist again to do it during the final walkthrough.
And then what if the mold gets inside of like the air handler and goes through the house through like the forced air?
I've seen that many times. So great question. What I do is, now this is me doing the mold assessment, which is different than the home inspection. The mold assessment, I'm taking the cover off the air handler. First I turn it off, obviously. I take the cover off, and then I'll do a swab sample inside the unit. But usually when I take the cover off, it's self-explanatory. Like you see black spores just throughout the whole entire blower. So
And that's just going straight into people's bedrooms.
straight into the house.
Everywhere.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my God.
And if there's flexible ducts, which it seems like there is here, that mold is inside the ridges and inside
Everywhere.
the duct itself.
You got to replace the whole thing.
Replace the duct. And again, that falls back on don't kill the messenger. I'm just here to, you know, and I feel like listing agents should just know that whoever buys the house, it's still there. So even if that person decides to not move forward, you're going to deal with the same thing from the next buyer. So it's only in everyone's best interest to just get it fixed.
Yeah, definitely.
But I've seen spores around the actual register on the ceiling, which is visible. But there's times too where the air samples come back negative and there's visible spores in the unit. So,
but that's because they're stuck to the wall, maybe not
stagnant.
in the air.
Yeah. But I would still recommend get it cleaned out. You know,
Definitely.
Another thing too, if there's lack of ventilation in the attic, the condensation forms up there, and now the spores are growing on the unit itself. So there's many ways to avoid these things. Like ventilation is huge. Adequate ventilation, and just have systems that just put rainwater away from the foundation, away from the house, which we'll tackle outside. But ventilation is definitely a huge one.
Okay, cool. So now we're going to go over animals and insects and other vermin that may be in the house and how they're detected and possibly how to know if they are there. So let's start with the obvious. When you get holes in your roof, and raccoons love living in attics.
Yes. Attics, basements, crawl spaces, boiler rooms, typically any unfinished areas. I feel like those are the most common places where they have access. And think about it too, in the wintertime, they're looking for shelter. They're looking to stay warm. They're looking to mate and quadruple and multiply.
Free food.
Free food, you know. But what I've seen, I would say, I'll use a crawl space for an example, you know. On the outside of the house, any vents, you want to have, you know, a mesh screen of some sort, because they're very versatile, and they will find a little penetration and they'll fit their way in. And to their credit, they're pretty smart. Once they find that little entry point, they know that they can come in and out, do their business. I would say that you definitely want to have, you know, the traps down there. And not only that, take it a step further with particularly termites. You want to have termite bait traps set up around the whole perimeter of the house to avoid any future activity.
And Long Island is like most like susceptible to termites.
So there's two types of houses. There's houses that have termite damage, and there's houses that don't have them yet, unless you have those bait traps installed.
Right.
They typically install them every probably 10 to 12 feet around the house. And then you would have a pest control company with a contract, and they'll service those traps every quarter. And the way that works is the termites will go to the bait stations. They'll bring the poison back to the colony, and then it kills the colony. But in attic spaces as well, it's, you know, the raccoons, squirrels, they'll come up from the branches, and then same thing. They'll find a penetration. They'll find a source of a little bit of daylight. They'll sneak their way in. And I could tell just from the droppings. And then I could tell, you know, what type of animal it is. And you just want to seal up the house so they don't have that access.
What are indications of seeing that they've entered other than droppings? Are you checking for the holes? Are you letting the homeowner know where the holes could possibly be and entry points?
So I'll pick up where you... I'm sorry. Yeah, so when it comes to, I would say, let's say the foundation, there's vents, whether it's plumbing vents, dryer vents. If there's no cover on these vents, then that's the way they can enter the property. Or if I go up in an attic and I see there's, you know, daylight, there's gaps between the gutters and the fascia and the soffit, then he'll get right in.
And for termites, what is the key indicator that there is termite damage?
Shelter tubes, actual visual termite damage, because termites eat wood. So they're looking for joists, subfloors, support beams, you name it. But that's typically around ground level. And another common area is basement window frames that are close to the soil, garage door frames at the bottom on both sides, very common areas.
Okay. And then aside from raccoons, you know, squirrels, rats, termites, let's talk about the other type of exterminating clients of, you know, cockroaches.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like that used to be like a problem for the city, but I guess with the more people traveling back and forth all day long, they're now out here on Long Island.
I want to add too, another way to add pest infestation, especially in kitchens, because when I think of cockroaches, I think of kitchen. They're eating the food. They're running on the countertops. Yes, which I've seen too. Disgusting.
They're like their people's pets sometimes. They're just rolling around their living room.
Yeah, but if you have a basement or a crawl space, you wanna seal those plumbing penetrations coming up from the crawl space behind your kitchen sink. Right. Because if that's opened up, they're gonna get right inside. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen that before where they go in throughout the whole cabinet. And the minute you rip the cabinet open, there's like 1,000 of them there. And they scatter.
I think cockroaches is more of a lack of hygiene of your house. Yes. You know, you have crumbs everywhere. You leave food out. You're not mindful of stuff like that. I mean, for the most part, I haven't seen cockroaches like infestations in clean houses. It's more of just neglect, you know?
Yep. Yeah, I've had it in a couple of my rental properties. And like I said, you know, I've been in houses here on Long Island where you walk in and you literally see them walking around the floor and, you
100%.
know, so they're just another tenant in the house at that point. Okay, I think we've covered everything really with extermination and termites and vermin. So now, when you walk into a house and there's two main types of fuel in a house, right? Oil, gas, but now people are going electric, solar. How would you be able to determine if something is a furnace or a boiler, if it's fueled by gas or oil or something else?
Great question. So I would say if the house has oil, wait, hold on. Sorry. Let me get my...
Yeah, that was like 4 questions.
Yeah,
all right, let me start with oil or gas. Ready?
Okay, but let me see how I could...
Yeah.
Because I want to do it just in simple terms. If the house has... Okay, go ahead.
So how would you be able to tell if a house is fueled by oil, gas, electric, or something else?
So I could tell, even in the kitchen, if you have an electric stove, that tells me that it's running on oil. Right. That there's no gas burners that you're turning on. Did I say that right? There's no... Sorry. You could tell it's... You could tell the second you even walk into the kitchen based on the stove. If it's a gas stove, why am I... All right. Sorry.
I'll do it this way. Ready? How would you be able, if just by walking into a kitchen, how would you be able to tell if a house is fueled by oil or gas?
You could tell by the stove. I mean, if you have a gas stove, then obviously it would ignite. You'd actually have a flame. Right. But with the electric stove, there's a good chance that the house is running off of oil.
And then, so what if there is an oil tank that is not present inside the home? Where else would it be?
It would be underground, and usually there's a pipe that comes out of the soil outside of the house, and then I would identify. Usually there'd be a pipe sticking out of the. Sorry. Usually there'd be a pipe sticking.
You getting nervous because Lindsay's coming?
No. Usually there'd be a pipe sticking out of the soil, which means that the tank is actually underground. Now, if the tank was abandoned, if I'm doing a home inspection and I was told by the homeowner that they had abandoned it, then to protect my client, I'd recommend that they receive documentation proving that it was safely abandoned, because there's ways to actually, there's ways to properly abandon a tank. You would obviously empty it out, you'd fill it with sand, or they would dig it up, chop it into pieces, and get rid of it.
Okay, so now oil versus gas, what do you see the two main issues are with either being attached to a boiler or being attached to a furnace?
Well, the first thing I hear is oil's more expensive, and you can convert from oil to gas as long as it's on the block. Issues aside from costs, I would say oil tanks leak over time. If it's an older tank, it'll rust out from the bottom, and it's just higher maintenance. From my experience, I mean, gas is usually cheaper. It's the way to go.
And what's the difference between a furnace and a boiler?
Great question. So even without even going into the basement, into the boiler room, you could tell if you have heat running from the boiler by the baseboards on the floor running throughout the house. Or in this case, if you have central air from the furnace, and we could see right here, there's actually ductwork running through the house behind the wall. So that's how you can determine if it's running from a boiler or from a furnace.
So this house would be from furnace because it's using air to be pushed through the house.
Correct.
But we don't know if it also does hot air.
Well, it does. So the furnace is for hot air. And then when you have a condenser on the outside of the house and an air handler in the attic, that's for the cooling.
Got it.
Yeah.
What other types of heating and cooling systems are out there now?
You could have mini split units where there's a actual unit with, you have mini split units. All right.
You are getting nervous.
Gather my thoughts right now. So you have mini split units. They're usually in every bedroom, every living space, and they're connected to a condenser outside the property. You have boilers, which we just went over with the baseboard heating. You have central air.
Come on in. Hi, how are you? Hey, I'm Eva. Nice to meet you.
Lindsay, nice to meet you. Hi.
Welcome to our humble abode. Isn't she pretty? The house? We're going over furnaces and boilers right now.
Yes.
How are you?
Much better now.
He was getting nervous. He was stumbling on his
was
words.
like,
I'm like, is it because Lindsay's on her way? Let's see, furnace, boilers, other types.
Mini splits.
Electric. Let's talk about electric for heating and cooling now.
Okay.
Why is it that?
Good shot.
I'll start that over. So let's talk about electric for heating and cooling. Why are most people converting over to that from oil and gas, do you think? Because most of the houses that we've been doing, sometimes it is more cost effective to just put in electric.
Correct.
Rather than replace a whole gas boiler or so on and so forth.
That's basically, I mean, from a cost standpoint, I would say the same thing.
What about like longevity of it? Which do you think it would be better, or do you think it would?
I feel like building materials are always upgrading over time. I'm getting nervous. No. No. Long from a longevity standpoint, I would definitely say electric.
It would be better?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Because then you don't have to rely on like the fuel and the prices of things going up and down.
Yep.
And then what are like the main defects that you find in a boiler, let's say?
Main defects is just over time lack of maintenance, rust, corrosion, you see signs of leaks. And then there's also instances, every inspection I do, I always run the heating system. I'm making sure that, every baseboard's working, but then there's times that, one radiator is not heating up, or maybe there's a section of the whole house on this side, it's just not working. And then I also check the age of each unit. So I like to kind of prepare my clients. If it's 15 years old, then I kind of recommend, it's at the beginning of the end of its useful life. Boilers usually last around 15 to 20 years. But I always let them know that, just so they don't move into a house and then they find out the hard way last minute, the boiler went, the water heater went, So I like to inform them as much as I can.
Do most of these houses have separate hot water heaters, or are there types of boilers that are able to do both?
To be honest, it's literally a 50-50. It's not primarily just one. It's every house is different, but yeah, it's like half and half. And
then on a furnace, what would you find is like the lifetime usage of it, and what usually goes first?
I would say 15 to 20 years, but with the furnace, again, lack of maintenance. And so I actually open up the cabinet, and what I find inside, rust, corrosion, and just dust. Dust accumulation just goes in the filters, and now it's blowing through the house. I mean, people they're not mindful of air quality, and that could contribute to getting sick, allergies, dust. You have pets in the house, so it's recommended to change out your filters at least once a month.
Yep. And is that something a homeowner can do, or should they hire somebody to do it, you think?
As far as the filters go, they could get it at Home Depot. They could do it themselves. I mean, depending, if they're mobile, but you might have to get on the ladder and just pop open the filter and replace it. But that's about it.
Is there anything else you think we should mention about heating systems or?
Maintenance, definitely maintain it because it will go. And these are top of the list items that it's not cheap to replace a boiler. No one wants to get a $9,000 bill because their boiler went last minute, and then they realize they haven't maintained it in 6 years, which I've seen all of this too. So I would say those are the top of the list items to just be on top of.
All right, so now when you're inspecting a house for electrical things, what are some of the common defects that you can pinpoint right away?
So first thing off the top of my head, and it doesn't even matter the condition of the house, it could be a brand new build. There's two things. One, the circuit breakers inside the panel are never labeled. So in the event something trips, you're just not gonna know what's what. Another thing too, especially a house this size, I see dozens of light switches throughout, but there's many instances where the light switches don't identify and they don't lead anywhere. So that's
You're talking about my house with the labeling. I literally went there with a label maker. I made my husband go in one room.
And you're screaming, right? Is it this one? Is it that one? So those are the two things. And then particularly in unfinished areas of the house, like boiler rooms, basements, crawl spaces, attics, they just expose wires everywhere.
Yeah.
So every time conductors are spliced, they should be put in what's called the junction box, which they are, but they're not covered. So they're in the box, but they're all exposed. I always think of a child not knowing better. They're walking downstairs, they're touching exposed wires. Another thing too, these are more in older homes. They're Federal Pacific panels. So that company is no longer even in business anymore because, so that company is now discontinued because the purpose of a circuit breaker is to trip when it's overheating.
Right.
But that company never
put in safety measures in
I'm
order
trying to
to
get the word. Yeah. So that company, those circuit breakers for that company didn't have that feature. So there were circuit breakers just literally overheating in houses and causing electrical fires. So even when I see the cover saying Federal Pacific, I'm automatically recommending an update.
What do you think about everybody now overloading their panels with electric cars and all of this? Have you seen issues where there's houses with these sorts of things in them?
Yeah, so there's circuit breakers inside the panel. So even when I'm doing my home inspections, I take the cover off. So I check the wiring behind the actual breakers itself. So you have what's called double taps. You have two conductors going into one circuit breaker. So now that breaker is requiring double the load now. And then on top of that, they're just panels that are completely overloaded.
And do you see this on times that people are like hooking up electric cars to their houses?
Generators, electric cars, extra
solar
appliances, solar panels. Yeah, it's doesn't happen too often where it's completely overloaded, but I've seen that many times. And then another thing too, every bedroom should have a smoke detector. Every floor of the house should have a combo, which is carbon monoxide and smoke. And they should all be interconnected. So in the event, especially a house this size, if there's a carbon monoxide, leak in the boiler room, because there's one down there and they're all interconnected, the whole house is going off. Everyone's waking up in the middle of the night, and everybody can get out safe.
Yep. It's good and bad because if your battery on them goes, because I've been having that issue in one of my rental properties where on the first floor, even though it's hardwired, there's still a backup battery and there was like some sort of defect and it just like set the rest of them off. But
I always think too of a worst case scenario is the whole family goes away on vacation. The batteries die. No one knows this. They come back home. In the event something happens, no one knows because all the batteries are dead.
Right.
And then the battery should only be the backup source. So if or when the house loses power, then the batteries kick on as the backup.
Right. Anything else we should mention about electric?
We got
GFIs and all that stuff.
Yes.
And aluminum wiring.
Yes.
Okay. So what is a GFI outlet? Because I feel like that's on every inspection report I've ever come across. So
GFCI, that stands for ground fault circuit interrupter. But in English, it basically means that those outlets are designed to trip if there's ever any variation in current. So how that happens, if it gets in contact with water. So you need GFCI outlets in kitchens, in bathrooms, in laundry rooms, especially on the outside. And they should have covers on the outside, which is obvious, but I've seen them without covers. And think of a scenario, you're in the bathroom, you're blow drying your hair, the sink is on, and without thinking, think of a scenario, you're in the bathroom, you're blow drying your hair, the sink water is running, and the blow dryer falls out of your hand into the sink. Without thinking, you go and reach to grab the blow dryer. Because you have a GFCI outlet, it's going to trip so you don't get shocked. Even though I think if you're running the sink while blow drying your hair, you deserve to get shocked, in my opinion.
Unless your kid comes in and throws it on like in my house.
Yeah. But yeah, those outlets are designed to basically save you from, getting shocked.
Now, aluminum wiring versus what is this kind of wiring? And
so this is Romex. Aluminum branch wiring, I usually find inside the panel itself. They were used in the 60s and 70s because it was cheaper, but I always recommend upgrading to copper. But I always deliver it in a way where it's not alarming, only because home buyers, they think if they don't get it changed today, the house is going to catch on fire.
Right.
And I always tell them, keep in mind, especially in older houses, these things I'm finding have been here for decades. But just moving forward, just be mindful that you probably should upgrade to copper.
Just like how they've used cast iron pipes for sewers, and now they're going to PVC.
PVC, yeah.
And just
Much
as
better.
time goes on, they start to make things better.
Absolutely.
And more long lasting.
Just like copper water lines, they upgrade to PEX as well. And it's very interesting to just see building materials upgrade over time, and then you're just avoiding rust, corrosion, because even copper water lines, I can't tell you, 8 out of 10 houses, they have oxidation, pinhole leaks, rust, things like that.
And now that shows up in the water. Do you test water too, or?
Of course. I test the water. I have my thermal scanner to make sure to confirm that the water is hot. Hot water should range between 95 degrees to 115. I'd say after 120 and higher, you run the risk of getting scorched.
Yeah.
But then again, final walkthrough, I'm recommending check it again. And then,
are you ever checking for like how you would in the air of like contamination? Are you able to do that in water as well?
That's a separate service as far as water quality testing. That's a service I currently don't provide at the moment. But as far as like mold spores in the air, that's something I do.
Okay, cool. Mike, that's not mold.
I hear this every day.
What kind of mold is it?
So there's different types of mold. When I take my samples, whether it's a swab, an air sample, the lab results tell me what type of spores it is, how to get rid of it. But this type of mold here, the brownish mold, this could be possibly just from lack of air circulation down here. It looks like there might have been a leak at some point in time. I mean, what hasn't happened down here, honestly? But this is definitely from the humidity levels rising down in this particular basement.
And we obviously have a insulation issue here too, right?
Oh yeah.
And there's a nice little vermin hole up there.
Daylight
some
over
exposed wiring.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What else? You name it.
This is where you find the real story of the house.
It always starts in the basement, right?
Always starts in the basement. This will tell me moisture issues, foundation issues, plumbing, electric, and it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the house.
So how do you know if this is oil or gas?
I usually look for the pipe, but this device right here tells me it's oil.
And
But yeah, I'm sorry.
no, and this is the hot water heater?
That's the water heater. These are the circulator pumps. This tells me how many zones there are in the house. I mean, you have 4 zones here. For a house this size, it's pretty normal. But usually it's 2. For like a 1,500 square foot house.
One upstairs, one downstairs. Yeah. And then this is the condenser, right?
No, the
air handler.
condenser's outside. The air
condenser's
handler
outside.
is in the attic. This looks like the furnace.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
boiler. Okay. We can go. So now for plumbing, what are the main things that you would like to review in a house to make sure that there won't be any issues either now or in the future for a homeowner, and what you usually find?
I would definitely say in older houses, you have the waste lines that just show rust, corrosion. Even some of them have signs of previous leaks. I check for stains around it, and I'm documenting these things. And if there's signs of a previous leak, I'm recommending that my client inquires to the seller directly. Hey, what happened in this area under the sink? I see there were some stains on, the back wall, because I don't know the history behind some of these leaks.
Right.
In my report, I'm also documenting where the main shutoff is. So in the event there's a leak in the house and they don't know where it's coming from, they could at least go to the location that I have in the report. They could cut the water off for the entire house so they don't, get a flood and things like that. Regular shutoff valves underneath kitchen sinks, bathroom vanities. Again, if there's a leak, you want to just terminate the water so you could identify why it's leaking. Also under kitchen and bathroom sinks, I don't recommend having flexible P-traps because they're really flimsy. They could break over time. They could get punctured and then leak.
So what you would recommend having, I think it's called like a J.
Like a rigid P-trap.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about like washing machines? What do you usually see in them that could be going wrong, or maybe it could be indication that, there's excessive wear and tear?
Washing machines, especially the drum, right when you open up the door, if it's a front loading machine, very important. When you take your wet clothes out, dry the drum every single time and leave the door open so it airs out.
Okay.
Because when you take wet clothes out and you just shut that door, the moisture is now trapped in there and the spores will get all inside that whole drum.
Right, and it makes that like musty smell
100%.
in your clothes and everything. Yep.
So it's one thing to dry it, but just leave that door open. Another thing too, as I mentioned, you want the GFCI outlets around the washing machine. And even the dryer vent should not be flexible because that lint will get stuck in the ridges of that vent. And now, if it's neglected long enough, you now have lint that's blocking the path of heat. Yep. And lint is highly flammable.
Yep.
And
you got to clean that out every
out.
like year or so.
Less than that, I'd say at least every 3 to 6 months, just to be proactive.
Right.
Or you can just get a rigid vent. So it's one straight chute, and then you just have the elbow, and then the lint's not going to get stuck.
And you were saying before about the chute out for the sewer?
Yes. So you have what's called a vent stack. So the gases from the waistline has to make its way out just so the house doesn't smell with odors. And that stack usually goes outside the roof all the way on top.
So that's like what's usually next to people's chimneys, that little white pipe that sticks out of there.
Exactly that, yeah.
Okay. So aside from dryer vent, I feel like ventilation was one of the biggest topics here today. So you need ventilation in the attic, make sure there's no mold up there, but also not too big where the vermin could come in.
Yes.
You need ventilation from the waistline and making sure that comes out. Ventilation in a pipe that is straight and rigid out for the dryer. And did I miss any other ones?
As far as and then covering the vents on the outside of the house just so pests don't enter.
Like they would in like a chimney with a fireplace, for instance?
Yes, yes. And then to add on top of the plumbing as well, when I'm doing my inspections, the plumbing pipes and the waistlines that are penetrating through the subfloor going into the house, I'm checking for stains around that too, because if that's not controlled, if that's not fixed, the moisture will eventually turn into mold, wood rot, termite damage. So leaks are like the ingredient to a potential perfect storm.
Right.
If it's not controlled, dried out, most important. So.
And what about leaks into foundations and knowing if there is something happening around a foundation?
So the goal for the outside of the house is just have a system in place where the rainwater just goes away from the foundation, because there's many ways moisture can penetrate a property: through the foundation, through the windows, through lack of drainage. The soil is now pitched towards the foundation, so now you have negative grading. So every time it rains, it's literally just pooling right into the foundation. And I could tell that if it's not set up properly outside, I'm already anticipating, all right, when I go inside the house downstairs, I know there's going to be signs of moisture intrusion, mold, just damages.
You could just see it before you even get inside.
100%.
You know it's there.
Yeah.
Just by the way that the water is going to go into the house.
And by the way, that's such an easy fix. And if it's neglected long enough, it'll cost you tens of thousands of dollars.
Because then you get foundation cracks,
100%.
and then that is just, you know,
The foundation is bowing. Your whole basement's contaminated now. It turns into a train wreck.
And it can even affect like the floor joists and everything else that
Absolutely.
holds it up. So,
Absolutely.
okay, cool. Well, thank you, Mike, for this
pleasure.
wonderful walkthrough. And if
course.
anybody needs help with getting an inspection done, how could they contact you?
They can reach out to me through Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Everything is at Hyperfocused Home Inspections. You could email me, Mike at hyperfocusedhomeinspections.com. I also do mold assessments, and I also do asbestos sampling as well. So if you guys need anything, have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.